Now, last time this guy was here in Dunedin, it was 1991. Now, when I say this guy, I'm talking about the man Rolling Stone magazine said was one of the greatest guitar heroes of all time. But in many ways, Mark Knopfler was an unlikely, almost reluctant guitar hero, a bit like the reluctant students here in Dunedin tonight. Now, he, of course, after the huge success of Dire Straits, he's moved on to doing his own albums. He's about to release his latest one, which is called Get Lucky. He gave a very rare interview to our Europe correspondent, Mark Kreisel.
Steal a line from one of his lyrics, like a love-struck Romeo singing a street sus serenade. Mark Knopfler will never forget his first guitar.
It must have been about that big, but it looked a lot bigger to me because I was only about that big, so only about as big as it. And it was probably, and of course, now I know it was more of a toy than a guitar. It was plastic and, you know, with a picture of Elvis.
You get a shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park, but meantime.
The man who would go on to become the Sultan of Swing had to wait until he was 15 to get his first real guitar.
It was a real thrill for me, and I may have very well have slept with it. My dad couldn't afford a Stratocaster, so it was an imitation. It was less than a third of the price. It was about 50 quid at the time. And I remember the old guy in the shop saying, when I was leaving the shop, he said, "Stick at it."
He had to. This certainly is not an overnight success story. Knopfler had to slog it out for years until he got noticed.
A lot of the hang-ups for me throughout my life, just getting going, were just getting enough money to get together to get the gear. Even after I got my first guitar, I couldn't afford an amplifier. I'd borrow friends' acoustic guitars, and that then got me fingerpicking and playing in folk joints and blues clubs.
Here I am again in this mean old town, and you're so far away from me.
It's unusual, but fingerpicking an electric guitar became Mark Knopfler's trademark. Finally, at the age of 28, with his new band Dire Straits, he was signed to a major label.
So you'd made it. How did that feel?
It's not something I'd recommend to any kid. I don't think I would have survived it if I'd been 18 at all. And I think deifying teenagers is a very, very dangerous thing, and in almost all cases has a very, very damaging effect. I found that at 28 or whatever it was, going to Amsterdam where the record took off first and doing all these interviews with people was like somebody taking a string of your sweater and just keep pulling it, you know. And at the end of it, I just felt really, really shredded.
Dire Straits became one of the biggest bands in the world. Money for nothing and chicks for free. But it was all too much for this shy, quiet man from Newcastle.
It's like it's been a bloody circus, really.
Look at them yo-yos, that's the way you do it.
To be the guy that I wanted to be, I wanted to be home more, I wanted to be writing more, and just be the guy who makes a record. And yes, goes on tour. I love going on tour. I've always done it. But now it's much more around the school holidays.
Which is pretty much what Mark Knopfler does today. Releases the odd record. His latest is Get Lucky, and tours. He's off to Europe and North America for 4 months. And you get the sense that this is what makes this reluctant guitar hero very content.
All I want to do is make a couple of decent records. That's all I want to do. There's nothing good about fame, which is really funny to me because I love success. I'd recommend that to anybody.